In 1920, Mao Zedong proposed splitting China into 27 separate countries. 29 years later, he founded the People's Republic and never mentioned it again. Could 34 provinces draft a constitution behind Beijing's back? Philadelphia, 1787. 12 states, 55 delegates. One question: how do many sovereigns become one? In 1787, 3 million colonists. Today, 1.4 billion subjects. The question is the same. One state, 1.4 billion subjects, 34 provincial governments, 0 federation. 8 provinces pay in, 26 take out. The seam across China has not closed in recent years. 76% of senior Communist Party cadres rose through the provinces. The pipeline runs upward. Imagine the center falters. Imagine the General Secretary cannot be reached. This is our 2034 scenario. This is not a new idea. It is 104 years old. Act 2. The Buried Tradition. Changsha, 1920. Mao was 26. The Communist Party did not yet exist. In 1920, the Qing Empire was 9 years gone. There was no functioning central government. 12 provinces had armies. 8 had their own currency. The question of how China should be ruled was open, and 4 provinces tried to answer it themselves. Hunan, Zhejiang, Sichuan, Guangdong. 4 provinces drafted their own constitutions between 1920 and 1923. January 1st, 1922, Hunan promulgated its constitution. Universal male suffrage, an elected civilian governor. The Hunan Constitution ran 141 articles. It had provincial control of taxation, education, and the police. It was the most radical state document in modern Chinese history, and it lasted 4 years. Chen Zhongming, governor of Guangdong, broke with Sun Yat-sen over federalism. June 27, 1922, Chen proposed a United States of China. Sun rejected him. The New York Times sent a 4-column dispatch from Guangdong. Chen Zhongming's proposal made the front page in New York before it made the front page in China. The American press treated it as plausibly the beginning of a Chinese Federalist Republic. The Chinese press, where it was not censored, treated it as treason. By 1925, Chen was forced out. The warlord era swallowed the movement. Beijing, November 7, 1931. Even the Communist Party endorsed national self-determination at first. By 1931, Mao was no longer the federalist theorist of his 20s. He was the chairman of a Soviet-style mountain republic in Jiangxi, and that Chinese Soviet Republic's constitution still endorsed the right of every nationality to secede. Article 14. The Soviet government in China recognizes the right of self-determination of the national minorities in China, their right to complete separation from China, and to the formation of an independent state for each national minority. When the communists moved to their base in Yan'an, it was gone. Right to self-determination was replaced by regional autonomy. Then, for 70 years, silence. The question vanished from public speech. December 10, 2008, International Human Rights Day. Liu Xiaobo and 300 others signed Charter 08. The first 303 signers were lawyers, academics, factory workers, a former PLA officer. Within 3 weeks, the number passed 10,000. The document was banned within 48 hours. It spread the way Soviet samizdat had spread. Photocopier to photocopier, sealed envelope to sealed envelope. The party's security services confiscated tens of thousands of copies. They could not confiscate the idea. Their proposal verbatim: a federation of democratic communities of China.
Liu was sentenced to 11 years in prison. In 2010, the Nobel Committee awarded him the Peace Prize in absentia. His chair in Oslo was empty. 7 years later, in 2017, in a Shenyang hospital, still in state custody, he died that same year. The Federation Clause he co-signed survived him. March 2011. Wu Bangguo, an influential member of the Politburo, lists what China will not become. Federalism is one of 5. The door slams shut. After 2011, the Federation conversation went underground. No newspaper would print the word. No academic would defend it without consequence. Then, October 2034. Act 3. The trigger. What would have to happen? In our scenario, by October 2034, the General Secretary has not been seen in public for 19 days. The 21st Party Congress, which should have met in 2027, never did. The 22nd, scheduled for 2032, also never did. The succession has not been settled, and the rumor has begun to outrun the silence. 9 days have passed since the Politburo Standing Committee last met. No public explanation. The motorcade still leaves Zhongnanhai every morning at 6:11 and returns empty by 7. Wang Huning takes the meetings she cannot attend. There are no statements. The Shanghai Composite Stock Index drops 11.8% intraday. Circuit breakers trigger. October 19th, 8 coastal
a
first
Reuters wire
are on
breaks
each
the
other's
silence.
phones for the first
The wire
time
is
in their
denied
careers.
within the hour.
They are not authorized to speak to each other without Beijing's coordination. They do anyway. The traffic is dense enough that telecom routing in Guangdong shows anomalous spikes.
Guangzhou, October 22nd, nighttime. Huang Kunming places the first call. 5 secretaries answer. Tibet does not. The coordination problem arrives before the convention. October 23rd. The Central Military Commission convenes. This is not broadcast. An invitation. 6 guests. No secretariat. The venue? Room 309, Great Hall of the People. Room 309, the room with no listening devices. Tibet declines. The first defection comes before the first meeting. Act 4, the Convocation. On the morning of October 31st, 2034, 5 black motorcades arrive at the Great Hall of the People before sunrise. 3 come by car, 2 come by helicopter. None of the arrivals are noted in the daily protocol log. There is no daily protocol log. 5 provincial first secretaries, Beijing, Guangdong, Shanghai, Inner Mongolia, Xinjiang, convene around an oval table in a windowless interior room. There is no stenographer, no nameplates. Yin Li speaks first. He represents the center. The center is silent. Huang Kunming has been carrying a draft for years. He proposes it now. Guangdong produces 12.9% of China's gross domestic product. Its economy alone is larger than California, larger than France. The Pearl River Delta runs 4 of the world's busiest container ports. In any federation, the bargaining weight of one province is whatever it can withhold. Guangdong can withhold an entire economic zone. The document is named the Federation Charter 2034, 12 pages. Shanghai will be the designated capital. Without Shanghai, there is no federal treasury. Yin Li does not commit. Beijing cannot defect against itself. Wang Lisha brings Inner Mongolia's lever. Inner Mongolia contains the Bayan Obo deposit, 38% of the world's identified rare earth reserves. Neodymium, cerium, lanthanum, dysprosium. Every electric motor, every guided missile, every wind turbine in industrial use
traces back somewhere in its supply chain to this pit. It is the single largest physical economic lever any provincial government could put on the table. Xinjiang holds the fabs that produce China's mature node semiconductors. Fujian sits across the strait from Taiwan and hosts the bulk of the PLA Navy's Eastern Surface Fleet. Between them, the chips and the carriers. In any federation bargain, the question is not whether these belong to the provinces. The question is whether the provinces can credibly threaten to keep them.
2 p.m., room 309. The first session ends without commitment. But a preamble is drafted. We, the provinces of the Chinese civilization, to form a more perfect federation.
A flag is sketched. It will not fly.
85 essays in 1787. 31 provinces in 2034. Who here writes Publius?
11 p.m. Coffee. No witnesses.
Madison, Federalist 51. Ambition must counteract ambition.
The Central Military Commission has been informed. The People's Liberation Army does not answer to 34 provinces. The Central Military Commission does not need to issue orders to make itself heard. It only needs to be seen moving. By midnight on October 31st, 3 of the 5 theater commands have raised their readiness posture by 1 level, and the news of that, not the order itself, reaches room 309 inside an hour. A recess is called. It is never lifted. Act 5. Ratification and failure modes. 23 of 31 provinces are required to ratify any federation compact. The Federalists of 1787 needed 9 of 13. The math is the same shape. The geography is not. In China, the 8 wealthiest provinces are clustered on one coast, and the 26 interior provinces have every reason to walk away from a treasury that no longer transfers in their direction. 20 ratify. 3 decline outright. Gansu, Qinghai, Liaoning. The quorum is not met. Federalism requires credible commitment. There is none. Who holds the army? Not the provinces. The Central Military Commission of the Communist Party. The Madison problem is structural. The People's Liberation Army is organized into 5 theater commands: Eastern, Southern, Western, Northern, Central. Every theater answers to the Central Military Commission. The Central Military Commission answers to one man, who chairs it. It has never answered to a council, a parliament, a senate, or a federation. The army was never one of the negotiating parties. For 6 years, 1781 through 1789, the American Confederation tried to govern itself under the Articles. It could not raise taxes. It could not enforce treaties. Its currency collapsed. Its trade fragmented. Madison's argument in 1787 was not that federation was desirable. His argument was that the alternative, confederation without enforcement, had already failed. Yugoslavia was a federation of 6 republics, 2 autonomous provinces, 3 official languages, 5 major nationalities. For 45 years, it held. Then, in 1991, it didn't. The political science literature on federal collapse is dominated by this one case, because once the central pole of legitimacy is gone, the federalist architecture does not save you. It accelerates the dissolution. As veto players multiply, reform probability collapses to 0. Without a focal point, agents who agree still miss each other. Transfers in, 38. Out, 110. The bar overflows. Without architecture, provincial negotiation is rhetoric. By dawn, room 309 is empty. The water bottles are still on the table. The notepads are blank. The Federation Compact has not been signed, has not been formally proposed, has not been officially acknowledged. By noon,
Wang Huning has resumed the daily meetings. The vacuum closes. Act 6. The verdict.
The Eastern Theater Command. The first veto point. The Taiwan Front. The Eastern Theater Command faces Taiwan from 180 kilometers across the strait. It contains the bulk of China's amphibious lift, its missile artillery, its coastal defense aviation. In any provincial bargain, the question of Taiwan does not stay in Beijing. It becomes a Guangdong-Fujian question, then a Shanghai question, then a federation question. Geography decides. Under current parameters, no external shock, Politburo unity intact, PLA command unbroken, the probability for a Chinese federation to emerge is very low.
Beijing, November 5th. The spokesperson denies the proposal exists. Of course. Act 7. What changes if it forms? The American president learns of the convocation 48 minutes before the State Department does. He places a call. The Mandarin language readout he receives mistakes a Guangdong provincial title for a national one. He congratulates the wrong person. The transcript is reclassified within the hour. Moscow denies the convocation 3 times before acknowledging it. The first denial comes from TASS at 11:42 a.m., the second from the Foreign Ministry at 2:08 p.m., the third from the Presidential Press Secretary at 6:31 p.m. The acknowledgement, when it comes the next morning, is 2 sentences long and contains no proper nouns. Tehran says nothing for 96 hours. Taipei is jubilant within 40 minutes, fireworks over the Tamsui River by 10 p.m. In the half-century-old constitutional question of who counts as China, the answer has just opened up by an order of magnitude. The Republic of China on Taiwan no longer needs to argue that it is the legitimate Chinese state. It only needs to argue that it is one of several. Geography does not change. Federation transforms internal politics, not power transition dynamics. 16 historical rising power transitions. 12 ended in war. 4 did not. Even if it forms, the probability for an alliance with the West is small. When does a state become a federation? When the bargain is offered. When the threat arrives. In this case, not yet.